This is Narrations, where we revisit the stories that warm our hearts, stir our memories, and remind us why movies matter. Today, we're heading into a holiday unlike any other, a day that blends laughter and tension, tradition and change, all in the heart of Los Angeles. The smell of food, the clash of personalities, the comfort of family, it's all here in a single Thanksgiving day that brings together four very different homes, four sets of traditions, and one universal truth. No matter who we are or where we come from, we all crave a seat at the same table. This is What's Cooking? 2000, a story about family, culture, and the beautiful mess of being human. In a world where food is memory, tradition is language, and family is the heart of every celebration, there's one day each year when kitchens wake early, laughter and tension share the same air, and tables become battlegrounds and bridges all at once. The morning light spills across Los Angeles, gilding the rooftops of a city that's already stirring. Somewhere in East LA, a pot of mole simmers. In Baldwin Hills, the smell of sweet potatoes fills a spotless kitchen. Farther north, a suburban oven hums with the anxiety of overcooked turkey. And in the San Gabriel Valley, the scent of lemongrass and garlic mingles with roasting bird. Thanksgiving has begun. In the Avila home, Inez stirs her sauce with care born from generations. Her daughter Lizzie races between the phone and the stove, determined to make this day run smoothly even as her heart wobbles beneath the surface. Tony, the teenage son, tinkers with his car stereo outside, filling the block with music that doesn't quite fit the holiday mood. Gina half sets the table, while texting under her breath. Everyone pretends the day feels normal, but there's an empty space behind every word. Javier, husband, father, absent for months, hasn't said whether he's coming. Inez wipes her hands on her apron, glances at the clock, and says quietly to no one, "He'll come." Hope, even when tired, refuses to sit down. Across town, the Williams family prepares their perfect picture of Thanksgiving. Audrey polishes the silver one last time, every movement careful, deliberate. She believes grace can be arranged like cutlery. Ronald checks football scores, but his mind drifts toward control, order, certainty. Their daughter Lauren bursts in with the confidence of youth and the courage of honesty. Beside her stands Tanya, smiling, respectful, a presence that unsettles Ronald more than he wants to admit. Audrey's smile trembles at the edges. She wants harmony, wants her husband to see what she already understands. But beneath the calm surface of cranberry sauce and fine china, silence hums louder than conversation. In the Selig household, tradition is both comfort and constraint. Ruth fusses over her turkey, lecturing her husband Herb about oven temperatures like it's a national emergency. She wants the perfect Thanksgiving, maybe to prove something to herself, maybe because letting go feels too much like losing control. Their daughter Rachel arrives with her boyfriend David, whose opinions arrive before his handshake, and their son Eli brings Jenny, his Vietnamese girlfriend whose warmth unsettles Ruth more than she expected. She smiles politely, pours wine with practiced grace, and hopes the small tremor in her hand goes unnoticed. Around the counter, discussions about politics, culture, and identity swirl faster than the gravy spoon. Ruth keeps smiling, that delicate smile mothers learn when love and exhaustion coexist. And in the Nguyen home, the morning carries a different rhythm. Trin brushes marinade over the turkey, each stroke an act of quiet confidence. Her husband Jimmy shouts advice to the television, football and family blending in his attempt to belong. Jenny checks her messages, heart pounding about the dinner she'll attend later with Eli's family. Her grandmother sits nearby, peeling vegetables with slow reverence, whispering prayers for peace in a language that has crossed oceans. Their kitchen hums with the balance between old and new, east and west, duty and desire. The turkey glistens beneath a sheen of garlic and fish sauce, a small rebellion wrapped in love. For homes. For kitchens. For stories shaped by history, pride, and the search for belonging. Each one different, yet connected by the same unspoken longing, to be seen, to be understood, to be forgiven. As noon arrives, the city vibrates with the rhythm of preparation. The Avila doorbell rings at last. Javier stands there holding flowers, his face equal parts apology and fear. Lizzie freezes mid-stride, Inez's breath catches, then softens. Tony shrugs, pretending he doesn't care. Gina bites her lip to hide a smile she doesn't want her mother to see. In that doorway, years of love and disappointment hang in the air, waiting for someone brave enough to speak first. At the Williams house, Audrey's calm begins to crack. Lauren tells a story about her college life. Tanya laughs. Ronald nods, but his eyes betray confusion. Audrey tries to fill the silence with questions about the food, about the weather, about anything except what's really happening. Under the table, Lauren's fingers brush Tanya's hand, a small act of truth hidden beneath fine linen. The Selig family's living room sounds like a debate club on caffeine. David and Eli argue about foreign policy while Herb insists the oven temperature was fine. Ruth interrupts with forced cheer, announcing dinner's ready. Jenny smiles politely through the storm, balancing her plate as if it were peace itself. Somewhere between the laughter and the sighs, Ruth realizes how tired she is of pretending everything must fit neatly. She looks at Jenny, this young woman sitting gracefully in a room that doesn't yet know how to welcome her, and Ruth begins, quietly, to open her heart. For homes. For kitchens. For stories shaped by history, pride, and the search for belonging. Each one different, yet connected by the same unspoken longing, to be seen, to be understood, to be forgiven. As noon arrives, the city vibrates with the rhythm of preparation. The Avila doorbell rings at last. Javier stands there holding flowers, his face equal parts apology and fear. Lizzie freezes mid-stride. Inez's breath catches, then softens. Tony shrugs, pretending he doesn't care. Gina bites her lip to hide a smile she doesn't want her mother to see. In that doorway, years of love and disappointment hang in the air, waiting for someone brave enough to speak first. At the Williams house, Audrey's calm begins to crack. Lauren tells a story about her college life. Tanya laughs. Ronald nods, but his eyes betray confusion. Audrey tries to fill the silence with questions about the food, about the weather, about anything except what's really happening. Under the table, Lauren's fingers brush Tanya's hand, a small act of truth hidden beneath fine linen. The Selig family's living room sounds like a debate club on caffeine. David and Eli argue about foreign policy while Herb insists the oven temperature was fine. Ruth interrupts with forced cheer, announcing dinner's ready. Jenny smiles politely through the storm, balancing her plate as if it were peace itself. Somewhere between the laughter and the sighs, Ruth realizes how tired she is of pretending everything must fit neatly. She looks at Jenny, this young woman sitting gracefully in a room that doesn't yet know how to welcome her, and Ruth begins, quietly, to open her heart. Meanwhile, at the Nguyen house, Trin calls everyone to the table. The turkey, golden and glistening, sits proudly beside bowls of rice and stir-fried greens. Jimmy offers to carve, proud and awkward all at once. Jenny translates her grandmother's blessing aloud, words about gratitude and connection flowing softly through the room. For a brief moment, the world outside disappears, and all that remains is the sound of family breathing together. As daylight fades, the four families begin their meals. Conversations overlap, laughter rises and falls, truths hide between bites. No one knows what the night will bring, reconciliation, confession, silence. But for now, there's food on the table and people in their chairs. That's enough. Thanksgiving is never perfect. It's messy, unpredictable, sometimes painful. But it's real. It's the moment you choose to sit down even when it hurts, to listen even when you disagree, to pass the plate even when your hands are shaking. Tonight, in this city of 1,000 cultures and 1,000 dreams, these four families are learning that the secret ingredient to every great meal isn't the food, it's forgiveness. And as Los Angeles settles under its soft evening light, the windows of these homes glow like lanterns. Inside each one, something fragile but hopeful is stirring. It's not peace yet, not understanding, but it's a start. And sometimes, a start is all a family needs. Evening has fallen over Los Angeles. The air outside is calm, the city lights shimmering like quiet stars reflected on pavement still warm from the day. Inside four homes, four dinners are underway, each table telling its own story. Laughter floats in one house while silence thickens in another. Forks scrape plates, glasses clink, And beneath it all, hearts beat fast with the things people haven't said yet. At the Avila home, the table is loud, filled with cousins, uncles, and plates passed around like clockwork. But beneath the chatter, tension simmers. Javier sits awkwardly at one end, trying too hard to laugh at old jokes. Inez watches him with the kind of gaze that's both love and disappointment wrapped in one. Lizzie keeps busy, carving turkey, refilling water, making sure her voice stays steady even when her heart isn't. The moment she sits down, Gina's phone buzzes. Tony teases her about her secret boyfriend, and laughter ripples through the table. It feels good for a second, normal. But then Javier tries to say something, his voice trembling slightly. He starts to apologize. Not for one mistake, but for the quiet years that came before. For the pride that built walls instead of bridges. Inez listens in silence, tears threatening to break through the calm she's fought to keep. Lizzie looks at her parents, and suddenly feels 12 years old again, watching two people who love each other but never quite learned how to say it right. For a long moment, no one speaks. And then, quietly, Inez says she forgives him. Not because everything's fixed, but because holding on to anger has become too heavy. The table exhales. The tamales are passed again. The conversation drifts back to everyday things. It's not perfect. But it's progress. Across town, the Williams family dinner looks picture perfect, the kind you'd see in a magazine. The table gleams, the food looks flawless, and everyone is seated in the right place. But the silence between Ronald and Lauren hums louder than the ticking clock on the wall. Audrey, ever the peacemaker, pours more wine than she usually would. Lauren finally speaks. She tells her father she invited Tanya not to provoke him, but because she's tired of pretending. Tired of making herself smaller to fit into someone else's idea of acceptable. Ronald listens without interrupting, but his eyes harden, the muscles in his jaw tightening with every word. When he finally speaks, his voice is low and measured. He says he just wants his daughter to have an easier life than he did. Lauren answers softly, maybe loving honestly is the easier life. Audrey's hand trembles as she sets down her glass. She's proud of her daughter's courage and terrified of her husband's silence. But when Ronald finally looks at Tanya, something shifts. Maybe it's the sight of his daughter's eyes, determined, unflinching. Maybe it's the memory of the fights he once had with his own parents. Whatever it is, he exhales, then nods slowly. It isn't approval. But it isn't rejection either. It's a beginning. Audrey reaches under the table and squeezes his hand. Lauren smiles faintly, tears forming in her eyes. For the first time that evening, the Williams family eats in peace. A few miles away, the Seelig home is anything but peaceful. The family has moved from dinner to dessert, and so has the arguing. Eli and David clash over politics. Rachel sides with one, Herb with the other. Ruth keeps trying to quiet them, but the noise only grows. Finally, she slams her fork down. The room freezes. She tells them to stop, that this day isn't about proving who's right. It's about remembering who's here. She turns to Jenny, still sitting politely, barely touching her plate. Ruth says softly that she's sorry the evening's been such a mess. Jenny smiles and says it's fine, that in her family too, everyone talks loudly because they care deeply. The room softens. Even David laughs. Ruth looks at her children, grown but still learning, and realizes that maybe the perfect Thanksgiving she imagined never existed. Maybe love was never meant to be tidy. They all help clean up together, laughter slowly replacing the earlier tension. The conversation turns to memories. The first time Rachel tried to cook and set the stove on fire, the year Herb dropped the turkey, the time Ruth's mother forgot the sugar in the pie. The stories come out easily, and with them, the warmth that makes family worth all the noise. Meanwhile, in the Nguyen home, the evening carries a quiet grace. Trin moves around the table with calm purpose, refilling bowls, smiling at her daughter's laughter. Jenny can't hide her excitement. She's planning to introduce Eli to her parents one day, though she knows it won't be simple. Jimmy teases her gently, half in jest, half in warning. Her grandmother says something in Vietnamese, her tone both amused and wise. Jenny translates. She says love is like cooking. If it's too safe, it has no flavor. The room fills with laughter. When dinner ends, Trin steps outside with a cup of tea. The air is cool, and the city hums softly around her. She thinks about her mother, her children, the life she's built so far from where it began. For the first time, she realizes that this messy, blended, ever-changing family is her version of the American dream. Night deepens. The streets quiet down. In 4 homes, dishes are washed, leftovers packed away, conversations slowly turning to tired smiles and yawns. But something different lingers in the air tonight. It's not just the smell of food. It's the feeling that maybe, just maybe, everyone has learned something about love, how fragile it is, how stubborn, how worth it. At the Avilas, Javier helps Inez carry the dishes to the sink. She lets him. They work in silence, the kind that feels like truce. In the living room, Tony plays music again, softer this time. Lizzie watches her parents, realizing that forgiveness doesn't erase history, but it can rewrite what comes next. At the Williams house, Ronald and Audrey sit side by side, tired but connected. Lauren and Tanya are laughing in the kitchen, washing dishes together. Audrey leans against Ronald and whispers, "You did good." He doesn't answer, but his hand finds hers. That's enough. The Seeligs gather in the living room, coffee cups in hand. The arguments of earlier are now softened into gentle teasing. Jenny and Ruth share a plate of leftover pie. Ruth admits she might try a Vietnamese recipe next year. Jenny grins. "Only if you promise to let me help." Ruth laughs, and for once she means it. And in the Nguyen household, Jenny hugs her grandmother goodnight. Trin smiles at her husband as they turn off the lights. "Next year," she says softly, "we invite Eli." Jimmy hesitates, then nods. "Maybe next year, yes?" The night closes in quietly, wrapping around these homes like a soft blanket. 4 families, 4 sets of stories, each one imperfect, each one beautiful in its own way. They've argued, cried, forgiven, and laughed. And now they rest. Sometimes the most powerful journeys don't happen across miles or years. They happen across dinner tables, when we finally look at each other, really look, and decide to stay. Thanksgiving isn't just a holiday. It's a mirror. It shows us who we are and who we still want to be. And as the last lights in these homes flicker out, the city exhales. Somewhere, a leftover turkey cools in the fridge. Somewhere else, a heart feels lighter than it did that morning. Because love, like food, is best when shared. This was What's Cooking? A story about the flavors that shape us, the traditions that test us, and the quiet truth that no family is ever just one recipe. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie stories told with heart. Because every film, just like every family, has a story worth savoring.